The emergency beacon screamed across 12 sectors of space, cutting through diplomatic chatter and commercial frequencies like a knife through silk. Observer Rilneth had been sorting through routine supply requests when the sound hit her auditory sensors, sharp and desperate. She froze, her four-fingered hands hovering over the control panel. The voice that followed was broken, crackling with interference. A male Talveshi, his words tumbling over each other in panic. "This is Outpost Gamma 7. Anyone who can hear this, please respond. The Kryn Syndicate has breached our defenses. They're taking people, families, children. We have 4,000 civilians here and they're loading them onto transport ships. Someone, anyone, please help us." Rilnath's primary heart seized. The Kryn Syndicate. Even their name carried weight across the galaxy. Slavers, raiders, butchers who operated in the dark spaces between civilized worlds. They took what they wanted and vanished before help could arrive, and they never left witnesses. She triggered the priority alert, sending the distress call racing up the chain of command. Within moments, High Coordinator Vesic appeared on her view screen, his scaled face drawn tight with concern. "Confirmed," he asked without preamble. "Yes, Coordinator. Gamma 7 colony, mining settlement, civilian population of 4,000, 7 different species. The Kryn have already begun loading captives." Vesic's clawed hand moved across his own console, pulling up tactical data. Rilneth watched his expression darken as the numbers came up. She already knew what they would say. "The nearest Council peacekeeping force is 19 days away," Vesic said, his voice flat. "At maximum speed. By the time they arrive, the Kryn will be long gone." "The colonists have 72 hours at most," Rilneth said quietly. "The Kryn never stay longer than that. They know our response times." Silence filled the channel. Rilneth could see Vesic running calculations, searching for options that didn't exist. The Galactic Council's forces were spread thin, stretched across too many systems with too few ships. They maintained peace through diplomacy, through careful negotiation and measured response. But the Kryn didn't negotiate. They simply took. "There is one possibility," Rilneth said, pulling up a star chart. "The human patrol fleet. They're conducting routine sweeps in the neighboring sector. 4 days away, perhaps less if they push their engines." Vesic's head snapped up, his eyes widening. "The humans, the Deathworlders." Rilneth had heard the stories. Everyone had. Earth was classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that merely surviving there required adaptations that made other species uncomfortable. Heavy gravity that built dense muscle and thick bones. An atmosphere that burned with reactive oxygen. Predators at every level of the food chain. The humans who emerged from that hell had brought their world's brutality with them to the stars. The Galactic Council had accepted humanity's membership 3 years ago, more out of practical necessity than genuine welcome. Human technology was crude by galactic standards, but terrifyingly effective. Their ships were over-engineered, built to withstand damage that would cripple any Council vessel. Their weapons were direct and devastating, lacking the elegant precision of more advanced races, but compensating with raw destructive power. And their soldiers. Rilneth had seen the footage from the border skirmish of 44, when human Marines had held a colony against Void Raiders for 6 days straight without sleep, without rest, fueled by nothing but determination, and something the humans called coffee. The Raiders had retreated, reporting that the humans fought like machines, like they didn't understand the concept of surrender. "They're unpredictable," Vesic said slowly. "Their methods are harsh. The Council has received complaints about excessive force, about disregard for proper engagement protocols." "They also answer distress calls," Rilneth countered. "Every single one. Their fleet doctrine includes a provision about humanitarian intervention. They call it the first response principle." Vesic stared at the star chart, at the icon representing the human fleet. His career had been built on careful decisions, on measured responses that satisfied all parties. But there were no good options here. Only the choice between doing something or doing nothing. "Send the signal," he finally said. "But make it clear this is an urgent request for assistance, not an order. We're asking for their help." Rilneth's hands moved across the controls, encoding the distress call with human-compatible protocols. She included everything: colony population, known Kryn fleet strength, tactical situation, estimated time before captives would be taken beyond reach. She marked it Priority Alpha, the highest emergency classification in the Council's system. The signal raced out across the void, traveling at faster-than-light speeds toward the human fleet. Rilneth watched it go, then turned back to the ongoing transmission from Gamma 7. The voice was still there, still pleading, describing the Kryn ships in orbit, the armed raiders moving through the colony streets. "Please," the voice said. "If anyone can hear this, we're running out of time. They're herding people into the central square. They have children separated from their parents. Please, someone respond." Rilneth opened a channel back to the colony. "Gamma 7, this is Galactic Council Emergency Services. We've received your distress call. Help is coming. Stay hidden if you can. Protect the civilians. 4 days. You need to hold for 4 days." 4 days might as well have been forever, but it was all she could offer. Then her console chimed. A response already. Impossible. The human fleet shouldn't have received the signal yet, shouldn't have had time to decode it and respond. But there it was, simple, direct, pure human efficiency. "Council Emergency Services, this is Captain Diana Foster, commanding human fleet elements in Sector 7. We have received your distress signal. We are altering course to Gamma 7. Maximum combat speed. Estimate arrival in 3.7 days. Tell them to hold on. Tell them we're coming." Rilneth felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Hope, perhaps, or maybe it was fear. She wasn't entirely sure which. She opened the channel to Gamma 7 again. "Colony Administrator, unknown human forces are responding to your distress call. 3 days, maybe less. Can you hold that long?" The response came back shaky but determined. "We'll hold. We'll do whatever it takes. Just please tell them to hurry." Rilneth closed the channel and looked at Vesik's image on her screen. The coordinator's expression was unreadable. "They're coming," she said simply. "I know," Vesik replied. "That's what concerns me." The war room of the Resolute held 15 officers, but only one voice mattered right now. Captain Diana Foster stood before the holographic display, her expression carved from stone as she studied the tactical data streaming in from Gamma 7. 32 Kryn vessels, heavy cruisers, armed transports, fighter screens, against her 5 ships and whatever courage they could muster. "They're not expecting resistance," Lieutenant Owen Brooks said from his station. The tactical officer had already run the numbers 3 times, hoping they would improve. They hadn't. The Kryn operate on predictable patterns. Hit fast, grab what they can carry, vanish before anyone responds. They've never faced immediate resistance this far from civilized space. Foster studied the enemy fleet composition. The Kryn ships were brutish things, designed for intimidation rather than elegance. Their hulls carried scorch marks from previous raids, trophies of violence. Each vessel could carry hundreds of captives in cargo holds meant for minerals and raw materials. "Dr. Okonkwo," Foster said, turning to her chief medical officer. "Worst-case scenario. 4,000 captives, unknown injuries, possible malnutrition and trauma. Can you handle it?" Aisha Okonkwo didn't hesitate. "My medical teams are already converting Cargo Bay 3 into a field hospital. We've got supplies for mass casualty events and enough beds for 500 critical cases. The rest we can stabilize and transfer to the other ships." "They might have diseases we've never seen," Foster warned. "Then we'll learn fast," Okonkwo replied with a tight smile. "Wouldn't be the first time." Sergeant Raymond Cole cleared his throat from the back of the room. The Marine commander was a mountain of a man, scarred and serious. "Captain, my people are ready for close-quarters operations. But if there are civilians in the line of fire, we need precision intel. Building layouts, CRIN positions, hostage locations." "But we won't have any of that," Foster said bluntly. "We're going in blind. The colony went dark an hour ago. Either they're hiding or the CRIN cut their communications. Either way, we plan for chaos." She brought up the CRIN syndicate's known tactics, information purchased from traders and scavengers over the years. The data was ugly. The CRIN used captives as shields, as leverage, as disposable resources. They would kill without hesitation if threatened. "So we don't give them time to threaten," Foster said. "We hit them so hard and so fast they don't have time to think. Lieutenant Brooks, I want targeting solutions on every CRIN ship before we drop out of faster than light. Prioritize their command vessel and any ship actively loading captives." "That's going to be most of them," Brooks observed. "Then we'll be busy." Foster pulled up Earth Command's latest briefing on human engagement protocols. Other species thought humans were reckless, that they threw themselves into danger without proper planning. They were wrong. Humans planned meticulously. They just planned for violence in ways that made peaceful species uncomfortable. The first response principle was simple. When innocents are in danger, speed matters more than protocol. Get there fast, hit hard, save lives. Worry about diplomatic consequences later. "We're outnumbered 6-1 in ships," Brooks said quietly. "The Galactic Council would call this suicide." "The Galactic Council would still be calculating risk assessments while those people get hauled off to slave markets," Foster replied. She'd read the reports about Council peacekeeping operations. Careful, measured, arriving precisely on schedule and exactly too late. We don't have the luxury of caution. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Throughout the Resolute and the 4 escort vessels, her crew stopped what they were doing and listened. "All hands, this is Captain Foster. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council sent us on a routine patrol. Nice and easy, they said. Show the flag, make friends, avoid trouble. Today we received a distress call from a mining colony. 4,000 civilians under attack by the CRIN syndicate. The Council's peacekeepers are 19 days away. We're 4 days out." She paused, letting that sink in. "I know what you're thinking. We're outnumbered. We're operating outside Council jurisdiction. We're probably going to take damage. All true. But here's what else is true. Those people are counting days and hours now. They're hiding in basements and storage rooms, hoping someone will care enough to help. And I'll be damned if we're going to let bureaucracy kill them." Foster could see her reflection in the holographic display. 43 years old, gray streaking through her dark hair. Too many scars for someone who was supposed to be a diplomat in uniform. But she'd been a Marine before she was a captain, and Marines didn't leave people behind. "We're going in heavy and we're going in fast. I want weapons hot, shields maximized, and every fighter prepped for launch. When we hit that system, the CRIN are going to learn something about humans. We don't negotiate with slavers. We don't show mercy to people who trade in lives. And we sure as hell don't walk away when someone needs help." She closed the channel and turned back to her officers. They were watching her with expressions she'd seen before. Determination mixed with the healthy fear that kept soldiers alive. "Sergeant Cole, your Marines will insert directly to the colony surface once we clear orbital space. Find the civilians, get them to safety, and put down any CRIN who resist. Rules of engagement are simple. Protect the innocent at all costs." Cole nodded. "They won't know what hit them." "That's the idea. Lieutenant Brooks, I want our ships running silent until we're in strike range. No emissions, no active sensors, nothing that gives away our position. We use passive scanning only." "Stealth approach," Brooks said, already running calculations. "We can get within weapons range before they spot us if we come in from the dark side of the system." "Do it. Dr. Okonkwo, coordinate with the other ship's medical teams. I want a triage system ready the moment we secure the colony. The pieces were falling into place. The Resolute and her escorts pushed their engines to maximum sustainable speed, eating up the distance to Gamma 7. Throughout the ships, crews prepared for combat. Marines checked weapons and armor. Fighter pilots ran simulations. Medical teams stockpiled supplies and cleared space for the wounded. And Captain Diana Foster sat in her command chair, watching the countdown tick away. 3 days, 17 hours, 22 minutes to Gamma 7. The Kryn had no idea death was coming for them. Warlord Grekken watched the loading operation with satisfaction. The transport ships were nearly full now, their cargo holds packed with captives from 7 different species. Talveshi, Rendari, Quillen, even a few of those fragile Dreenith with their crystalline skin, each one worth a small fortune at the right markets. His flagship, the Dominance, hung in high orbit above Gamma 7 like a predator surveying its kill. The colony below had gone quiet 12 hours ago, the last pockets of resistance crushed. His raiders controlled every major structure, every possible hiding place. The colonists who remained were cowering in the dark, waiting for mercy that would never come. "Status," Grekken demanded, his mandibles clicking with impatience. 87% capacity on the transports, his second-in-command reported. "We'll be ready to depart in 40 hours, right on schedule." Perfect. The Galactic Council's response time was predictable down to the hour. Their peacekeeping forces would arrive 2 weeks from now, find an empty colony and no trail to follow. The Kryn would be halfway across the outer territories by then, captives sold and credits flowing. "Warlord," the sensor operator called out, confusion in her voice. "I'm detecting something unusual at the system's edge, multiple contacts moving fast." Grekken turned to the tactical display. 5 blips, accelerating hard toward Gamma 7. Their energy signatures were strange, not matching any known Council vessel. "Identify them," he ordered. Unable to confirm, their sensor profile is irregular. Wait, they're broadcasting an identification signal now. The operator's eyes widened. "They're human." The bridge fell silent. Grekken felt his warriors tense around him. Humans, the Deathworlders. Stories about them circulated through the criminal underworld, tales of brutality and relentless pursuit. But stories were just stories meant to scare the weak. 5 ships, Grekken said, barking out a laugh. 5 against our entire fleet. They must be suicidal. A transmission crackled across all frequencies. A female voice, calm and cold. "This is Captain Diana Foster of the human fleet. You are ordered to release all captives immediately and surrender your vessels. You have 5 minutes to comply. This is your only warning." Grekken's laughter echoed through the bridge. Surrender to 5 primitive ships. The humans clearly didn't understand who they were dealing with. "Open a channel," he ordered. When the connection established, he made sure his voice dripped with contempt. "Human captain, you are outmatched and outgunned. Turn back now and we might let you live. Interfere with Kryn's syndicate operations and we'll add you to our cargo holds." The response came immediately. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. "They're bluffing," Grekken's second said. "They have to be." But something about that human voice bothered Grekken. No fear, no hesitation, just cold certainty. He pulled up the tactical data again. 5 ships versus 32. The math was simple. The humans should be running. "Target their lead vessel," he ordered. "Fire a warning shot. Show them what real weapons look like." The Dominance's main plasma cannons lit up space. The shot streaked toward the human flagship, a devastating blast that could cripple most Council ships. The human vessel's shields flared blue-white and absorbed the hit without even slowing down. Grekken's confidence wavered. Again, full power. 3 more shots, each one strong enough to crack a cruiser's hull. The human shields rippled but held firm, and now the human ships were close, moving at speeds that should have torn them apart. All ships, weapons free, the human captain's voice came again. Show them what Deathworlders do to slavers. The human fleet opened fire. Grekin had seen combat before, had fought in a dozen raids and skirmishes, but nothing had prepared him for this. The human weapons were primitive-looking things, crude rail guns that hurled chunks of metal at relativistic speeds, but their accuracy was surgical. Each shot found its mark with terrifying precision. The transport ship Ripper took a rail gun round straight through its engine core. The vessel didn't explode so much as simply stopped existing, turned into an expanding cloud of debris. Evasive maneuvers, Grekin screamed. Return fire. But the human ships moved like nothing he'd ever seen. They rolled and weaved through Kryn plasma fire, their pilots operating at reaction speeds that should have been impossible. Human missiles followed, hundreds of them, each one tracking its target with relentless determination. The Ravager, one of Grekin's best cruisers, disappeared in a ball of fire as missiles overwhelmed its point defense. They're everywhere, the sensor operator shouted. I can't track them all. Human fighter craft had launched sleek angular things that moved faster than Kryn sensors could follow. They tore into the fleet's flanks, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical strikes. Every pass left another Kryn ship disabled or dying. Grekin watched his fleet die in minutes. Not hours, not even a sustained battle, just minutes of overwhelming violence. The humans didn't fight like council peacekeepers, with their careful targeting and measured responses. They fought like apex predators, efficient and merciless. Retreat, Grekin ordered, abandoning any pretense of pride. All ships scatter and jump to faster than light, now. But the human fighters were already moving to intercept. They positioned themselves perfectly, blocking escape vectors, herding the Kryn fleet like prey. One by one, Kryn ships tried to run. One by one, human weapons crippled their engines before they could jump. The few that managed to activate their faster-than-light drives found human missiles already tracking them, detonating precisely calculated to knock them back into normal space. The Dominance shuddered as rail gun rounds tore through its armor. Grekin felt the deck tilt under his feet as primary systems failed. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, someone reported. Engines offline, weapons offline, life support at 30%. Through the viewport, Grekin could see the human flagship approaching. It was barely scratched, its shield still glowing strong. Around it, what remained of his fleet drifted helpless, their hulls punctured and systems dead. The human captain's voice came across the comm again. Kryn vessels, you are ordered to stand down. Any ship that attempts to resist will be destroyed. Any ship that attempts to harm captives will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to acknowledge and comply. Grekin looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead or dying. The rest stared at him with fear in their eyes. He keyed the communication system with a shaking hand. We surrender. Wise choice. Remain in position. Human Marines are inbound to secure all vessels and liberate captives. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Through the viewport, Grekin watched assault shuttles launch from the human ships, heading for his fleet and the colony below. The Deathworlders had come, and they'd brought hell with them. The doors to the underground shelter burst open, flooding the darkness with harsh white light. Portion threw himself in front of the children, his 4 arms spread wide in a futile gesture of protection. Behind him, 300 colonists pressed against the back wall, too exhausted from 3 days of terror to even scream. Heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell, not the clicking of Kryn claws but something different, rhythmic, precise. Portion's hearts hammered as shapes appeared in the doorway, backlit and massive. Shelter 7, this is Sergeant Cole, Earth Marines, a deep voice called out. We're here to help. Is anyone injured? Portion couldn't process the words at first. Earth Marines, the humans, they'd come. He'd sent the distress call hopping for anyone, but the humans were 4 days away. It had only been 3 days and 7 hours since the Kryn attacked. "We're here," Portion managed, his voice cracking. "Children, elderly, wounded, we're all here." The shapes moved into the shelter, and Portion got his first clear look at human soldiers. They were enormous, easily twice the mass of any Talveshi, encased in dark armor that made them look like walking fortresses. But their weapons were lowered, and the one in front had removed his helmet. The human's face was dark-skinned and scarred, but his eyes were kind. "You're safe now," Sergeant Cole said. "The Kryn fleet has been neutralized. We have medical teams standing by. Let's get you all out of here." A young Talveshi girl, no more than 6 cycles old, stepped forward. "Are the bad people gone?" Cole knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level despite the bulky armor. "Yes, little one. They're gone. They won't hurt anyone ever again." The girl started crying, and then everyone was crying, relief flooding through the shelter like a wave. Portion felt his legs give out. 3 days of holding together, of staying strong for his people, and now he could finally let go. Human medics rushed in, their movements efficient but gentle. They carried devices Portion had never seen before, scanners that hummed as they passed over the colonists. One medic, a woman with kind eyes and quick hands, stopped beside an elderly Rendari male who'd been injured when the Kryn breached the eastern wall. "Compound fracture, possible internal bleeding," she reported into a communication device. "I need a stretcher and a trauma team." Within moments, more humans arrived with a floating stretcher. They transferred the elderly Rendari with practiced care, already attaching medical equipment before the stretcher even started moving. "You're going to be fine," the medic told him in surprisingly good Rendari dialect. "We have the best trauma surgeons in the fleet. You'll be walking again in no time." Portion watched in amazement as the humans worked through the shelter, triaging the injured, distributing water and emergency rations, even producing toys from somewhere to distract the frightened children. They moved with military efficiency, but spoke with genuine compassion. One of the Marines noticed Portion stare. "First time seeing Deathworlders up close." "I heard stories," Portion admitted, "that humans were brutal, violent, that you fought without mercy." The Marine's expression hardened. "We don't show mercy to slavers and murderers, but for people who need help," he gestured around the shelter. "This is what we do." Outside the shelter, the colony was transforming. Human engineers were already working on restoring power and communications. More Marines moved through the streets, checking every building, finding colonists who'd hidden in the strangest places. A Quillen family had spent 3 days in a water tank. A group of Dreenith had sealed themselves in a mining shaft. Every single one was brought out, checked by medics, given food and water and blankets. The humans had brought enough supplies for twice the colony's population. In the main square, Dr. Okonkwo had set up a field hospital that would have impressed most planetary medical facilities. Beds lined up in neat rows, each with monitoring equipment. Surgical bays stood ready under sterile force fields. Human medics worked alongside the colony's own doctors, sharing techniques and technology without hesitation. "Your medicine is decades ahead of ours," a Talveshi doctor said, watching in awe as Okonkwo used a device that knitted broken bones in minutes. "Then we'll teach you," Okonkwo replied simply. "No one should suffer because they don't have access to proper treatment." Captain Foster walked through the colony, her command staff trailing behind her. She stopped frequently, speaking with colonists, checking on the wounded, making sure her people had everything they needed. Portion approached her near the eastern shelter, still trying to find words adequate for what the humans had done. "Captain Foster," he began, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved us, all of us." Foster turned to face him, and Portion saw the exhaustion in her eyes. She'd probably been awake for 3 days straight, driving her fleet at maximum speed, fighting a battle against overwhelming odds, and now ensuring every colonist was safe. "You don't need to thank us," she said quietly. "This is what we do. Someone sends a distress call, we answer. Doesn't matter who they are or where they're from." "But why?" Portion asked. "Why risk your lives for strangers? The Galactic Council wouldn't have made it in time. You could have ignored the call, stayed safe." Foster was quiet for a moment, looking around at the colony, at the humans working to help people who'd never even seen a human before yesterday. "Because it's the right thing to do," she finally said, "back on Earth. We have a saying, no one gets left behind. Doesn't matter if you're human or not. If you need help, we're coming, every single time." A young Talveshi approached them, the same girl who'd asked Sergeant Cole if the bad people were gone. She held something in her small hands, a flower from the colony's greenhouse, somehow still intact despite the chaos. She held it up to Foster. "Thank you for saving us." Foster accepted the flower with a gentle smile, the hard warrior's edge softening. "You're very welcome. What's your name?" "Nira." "Well, Nira, you were very brave. You helped keep everyone safe in the shelter, didn't you?" The girl nodded, then surprised everyone by hugging Foster's leg. Foster knelt down, returning the embrace. Portion watched this human captain, who just commanded a fleet in devastating combat, now holding a frightened child with infinite gentleness. The contrast was jarring. These were the same humans who'd torn through the Kryn fleet in minutes, who'd shown no mercy to the slavers. Yet here they were, treating wounded colonists with cutting-edge medicine, rebuilding damaged homes, comforting traumatized children. Perhaps, Portion thought, that was what made humans truly dangerous. Not their weapons or their ships, but their absolute conviction that every life mattered. They would cross the galaxy to save strangers. They would fight impossible odds without hesitation. And they would show both devastating violence and infinite compassion in the same breath. The galaxy had underestimated Earth's children. Portion suspected that mistake wouldn't be made twice. The footage played across 1,000 worlds simultaneously, spreading through official channels and underground networks alike. Someone on Gamma 7 had recorded everything. The human fleet arriving like avenging angels. The battle that lasted 7 minutes and 32 seconds. The Kryn fleet reduced to drifting wreckage. And then the aftermath, showing humans treating wounded colonists with the same intensity they'd shown destroying the raiders. On Harmony Station, seat of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Ruth Alvarez watched the assembled delegates descend into chaos. Representatives from 43 species shouted over each other, some demanding explanations, others calling for investigations, a few expressing quiet gratitude. High Coordinator Vesic stood at the center of the storm, his scaled face unreadable. "Order," he called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "We will address this systematically." A Dreenith delegate rose, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. The humans deployed military force without council authorization. They destroyed 32 vessels. This is a clear violation of the Mutual Defense Accords. "Those 32 vessels belong to the Kryn Syndicate," Alvarez said calmly from her seat. "A criminal organization responsible for the enslavement of over 50,000 individuals in the past decade alone. Are we really debating whether stopping slavers required council permission?" "The process matters," a Rendari counselor interjected. "We have protocols for responding to piracy and slavery. The humans ignored all of them." Alvarez stood, her movements deliberate. She'd spent 3 years in this chamber, learning to navigate galactic politics. But today she was done with careful diplomacy. "Let me be very clear about Earth's position," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "When someone sends a distress call, we respond. We don't form committees to study the issue. We don't calculate risk assessments. We don't debate whether saving lives fits within proper protocols. We go. We help. Every single time. Even if it means starting a war, The Dreenith delegate challenged. The Kryn started the war when they began trading in sentient lives, Alvarez shot back. We just finished it. Counselor Surath, one of the eldest members, raised a hand for recognition. The ancient being had seen civilizations rise and fall, and his words carried weight that transcended politics. I have reviewed the tactical data, Surath said slowly. The human fleet was outnumbered 6-1. By all conventional military doctrine, they should have been destroyed. Instead, they achieved total victory with 0 casualties on either side. How? Alvarez allowed herself a small smile. Because we spent 10,000 years getting very good at fighting. Earth isn't a gentle world, counselor. It made us hard, but it also taught us that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. We brought both lessons to the stars. Your protection came at the cost of 32 ships, the Dreenith delegate persisted. Empty ships, Alvarez corrected. Captain Foster's tactical report shows that every Kryn vessel was disabled, not destroyed. Engines taken offline, weapons neutralized, but life support maintained. The Kryn crews are alive and in custody. They'll stand trial for their crimes. That caused a stir. The footage had shown devastating firepower, brutal efficiency. Most species had assumed the humans had simply obliterated the enemy fleet. You spared the slavers, someone asked, confused. We spared their lives so they could face justice, Alvarez explained. Humans don't execute prisoners. We don't slaughter defeated enemies. We fight hard, but we fight clean. Those Kryn will spend the rest of their lives in prison, and every person they've ever enslaved will see justice done. Vesic studied Alvarez with new understanding. You made an example of them. Yes, Alvarez said bluntly. The Kryn syndicate operated for 30 years because no one could catch them. They were too fast, too ruthless, always one step ahead of Council forces. Now every slaver and pirate in the galaxy knows. It doesn't matter how fast you run. If you prey on the innocent, humans will find you. And when we do, you'll wish we just killed you. The chamber fell silent. It was one thing to defeat an enemy in battle. It was another to turn that defeat into a message that would echo across the galaxy. In the observation gallery, news correspondent Telvek recorded everything, his feeds broadcasting to billions of viewers across known space. The story was already massive, but this exchange would make it legendary. Ambassador Alvarez, Counselor Surath said carefully, you understand that this sets a precedent. Other species will expect similar responses to their distress calls. Good, Alvarez replied without hesitation. Let them. Earth has 47 deep space fleets and we're building more. We'll patrol sectors the Council can't reach. We'll respond to calls you can't answer. And we'll do it our way, which means fast and effective. This could destabilize the entire peacekeeping framework, the Rendari counselor warned. Your framework failed, Alvarez said, her patience finally breaking. 4,000 people were hours from being sold into slavery while your peacekeeping forces were 19 days away. That's not a framework. That's a failure. Humans won't apologize for doing what needed to be done. She pulled up a holographic display showing data that made several delegates flinch. Crime statistics from the sectors where human fleets had recently patrolled. Piracy down 74%. Slaving operations down 89%. Civilian casualties from raids down 93%. These are the numbers after just 3 years of human presence in galactic space, Alvarez said. Criminals are learning that certain sectors are off-limits now, not because of laws or treaties, but because they know humans will actually show up when called. Far from Harmony Station, in the dark corners of space where laws held no meaning, other beings watched the same footage. Crime Lord Vash, leader of the Chains Collective, reviewed the battle data for the 4th time. His organization specialized in abduction and ransom, operating in the lawless frontier zones. Adjust our operational parameters, Vash ordered his lieutenants. Any target within 6 days of human patrol routes is off-limits. Any colony that's contracted with Earth for protection is untouchable. I don't care how profitable the job looks. They're just humans, one lieutenant protested. 5 ships can't patrol everywhere. Vosh pulled up the footage of the Kryn fleet dying in 7 minutes. Those 5 ships destroyed a fleet 6 times their size without taking damage, and the humans have 47 fleets. Can you do math? Because I can, and the math says we stay far away from anything with human protection. The message was spreading through every criminal network in the galaxy. The humans were different. They didn't posture or threaten. They didn't negotiate or compromise. They just came, hit harder than anyone thought possible, and left the survivors to face justice. Back on Gamma 7, young Nira watched the news broadcasts with Captain Foster, who'd stayed behind to oversee reconstruction efforts. The girl had barely left the captain's side for 2 days. "Are all humans like you?" Nira asked. Foster considered the question carefully. "We're all different, just like your people are. But yes, most humans would do what we did. We're taught from childhood that with strength comes responsibility. We're strong, Nira. Earth made us that way, so we use that strength to help others." "I want to be strong like you," the girl said quietly. Foster smiled and ruffled the girl's head crest affectionately. "You already are. You kept those children calm in the shelter for 3 days. That's a different kind of strength, but just as important." The galaxy was learning what Earth had always known. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their guns. It was their absolute refusal to abandon those in need. 6 months had changed everything and nothing at all. Admiral James Hartley reviewed the star charts in Earth Command's strategic planning room, watching as another section of space turned green. Green meant protected. Green meant human fleets patrolled those sectors. Green meant colonists could sleep at night without fear. The map showed 47 green zones now, each one representing thousands of systems where human presence had made crime statistically irrelevant. Pirates and slavers had learned to operate elsewhere, in the shrinking dark spaces where human ships didn't venture. Yet, "Admiral," his aide said, pulling up the latest request queue, "we have 16 new colonies requesting protection contracts. 8 of them are offering to pay in raw materials, the others in technological exchanges." "Tell them we don't want payment," Hartley said, just like he had for the previous 83 requests. "We do this because it's right, not for profit." The aide nodded, unsurprised. That answer had become standard policy. Earth didn't charge for protection. They didn't demand resources or favorable trade agreements. They simply showed up when called and did what needed doing. "The Galactic Council is voting today," the aide continued, "on whether to grant humans official emergency response force status." Hartley pulled up the live feed from Harmony Station. The debate had been raging for weeks. Some species embraced humanity's protective role. Others feared it, worried about what humans might do with such authority. On Gamma 7, now rebuilt and thriving, Nira sat in a human classroom aboard the Resolute. At 14 cycles old, she'd become something unprecedented. The first non-human to join Earth's fleet training program. Captain Foster had sponsored her personally after the girl had spent months following human Marines around, learning their tactics and philosophy. "The key to human strategy," Instructor Williams explained to a class of mixed-species students, "isn't superior technology. It's adaptability. We learned to fight on a planet that was actively trying to kill us every single day. That taught us to think creatively, to use whatever works." Nira raised her hand. "But the Galactic Council teaches that violence should always be a last resort. Humans seem to use it as a first response." Williams smiled. "Good question. Let me clarify. Violence is our last resort for solving problems, but it's our first response to protecting innocent lives. If someone is actively hurting people, we don't debate or negotiate. We stop the threat immediately. There's a difference. Another student, a young Quillan, spoke up. My family's colony was raided twice before humans started patrolling our sector. Now raiders won't even come close. Why? Reputation, William said simply. Humans have a saying, walk softly but carry a big stick. We're peaceful, friendly, happy to help anyone who needs it. But everyone knows that if you threaten innocence, we hit back so hard you'll never forget it. That reputation protects more lives than any weapon. Back on Harmony Station, the vote was entering its final phase. Councillor Sureth addressed the assembled delegates one last time before the decision. We stand at a crossroads, the ancient being said. For millennia, this council has maintained peace through diplomacy, through careful negotiation and measured response. The humans offer something different: speed over caution, action over deliberation, results over protocol. He paused, letting his words settle. 6 months ago, 4,000 souls on Gamma 7 faced death or slavery. The Council's forces were 19 days away. The humans arrived in 4 days and resolved the situation in 7 minutes. Since then, crime in human-protected space has dropped by over 80%. Colonies that once lived in fear now prosper in peace. These are not abstractions. These are lives saved, futures protected. Adrenith delegates stood. But at what cost? Human methods are brutal. Their weapons are devastating. They operate outside established protocols. They operate within the only protocol that truly matters, Sureth replied. Protecting the innocent. If our protocols cannot do that, then our protocols are worthless. The vote began. One by one, species cast their decisions. Some voted no, still fearful of human power. But more voted yes, remembering their own colonies that now slept safely because human ships patrolled nearby. The final tally appeared, 67% in favor. The measure passed. Humans were now officially recognized as the galaxy's emergency response force. When disasters struck, when pirates raided, when slavers attacked, Earth's fleets would have legal authority to respond immediately, without waiting for council approval. In the strategic planning room, Admiral Hartley watched the vote results and allowed himself a small smile. Then he turned to the requests queue, now numbering 23 new colonies seeking protection. "Get me fleet deployment schedules," he ordered, "and start looking at where we need to position new bases. If we're going to do this properly, we need coverage across all major trade routes." On the Resolute, Captain Foster received the news while overseeing a training exercise. Nira was participating, working alongside human Marines in a simulated rescue operation. The girl had grown since that terrified child in the shelter. She moved with confidence now, had learned to think tactically, to prioritize civilian safety above all else. "What happens now?" Nira asked when the exercise concluded. Foster looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. "Now we expand. More ships, more patrols, more training programs like yours. The galaxy is a big place, and there are a lot of people who need help. And humans will answer every call." "Every single one," Foster confirmed. "That's who we are. Earth taught us that survival means working together, protecting each other. We're just applying that lesson on a galactic scale now." A priority alert flashed across Foster's console. New distress signal, a mining operation in the outer territories reporting pirate activity. They were calling specifically for human assistance. Foster checked the distance. 7 hours at maximum speed. "Navigation, plot a course," she ordered. "Engineering, I want maximum combat speed. All hands to action stations." The Resolute's engines flared to life, pushing the massive ship toward those in need. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out. Human vessels receiving calls for help and responding without hesitation, without calculation of risk or reward. Nira watched the preparations with understanding. This was what humans did, not because they sought glory or power, but because it was right. Because somewhere out there, people were afraid and calling for help, and humans couldn't ignore that call any more than they could stop breathing. The galaxy had learned its lesson. When danger threatened, when evil raised its head, when the innocent cried out for salvation, humanity would come. Not eventually, not when convenient, immediately, decisively, overwhelmingly. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's protectors, and they wore that responsibility like armor. Heavy, yes, demanding, but necessary. And they would carry it for as long as anyone needed them. The Resolute jumped to faster than light, racing toward another crisis, another chance to prove that Earth's children would never abandon those in need. Behind them, 46 other fleets maintained their vigils, watching over their sectors, ready to respond at a moment's notice. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.